But it really isn't much money, is it? Significantly, you don't have to tell us what the money
Well,
is.
you know.
But I know you can go online at the Impact.
Well,
site,
yeah,
and
but-
a high school can be $500.
Yeah, that's for the test.
Yeah, and when you start your training, what I'm looking at is, even if you budgeted $1,000 to include all your training for a school, I'm looking at a school. Individual teams probably have to have individual contracts, because depending on the nature of your team and the league you're in.
Yeah, like we did it with the league.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So, but when you take a look at the fact that the testing will give you an additional item to go by when you're trying to determine the health of a person who's recovering from a concussion, it's minimal, the cost. It probably costs a little bit more to do the training, so that people, and it's not, and I don't want anyone listening to think that the training is extensive, because parents are allowed to take this test at home.
Sure.
You can actually go to Impact, you can do the test, get it printed on your own. You don't have to go through a school or a team. And that test is, I think, $25. So that gives you an idea of what kind of reduced cost you get as a school or a league.
Yeah.
So when you take a look at everything, if you can do this testing for all secondary school student athletes who are playing any kind of sport where there could be a head injury, and it could cost you maybe $1,000 for the year, it's ridiculous to have that extra level of knowledge about the safety of the players that you're putting into the game, whether it's hockey, basketball, football.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna.
And it's just, I mean, what a move.
Well, hey, listen, no, I just look at it as it's a safety thing, and you know, I'm a parent. I got kids in high school. I got two going to university this year, but they came up through high school. I got one, you know. So, as a parent, I wouldn't even hesitate if I had to write the check for my daughter to play a sport to get the test.
Yeah.
And I think there are people out there who will probably sponsor kids or teams to afford this kind of program. Because I just, when you read about what's really going on, when you talk to guys like Jeff Bukawu, when you hear guys like Eric Lindros who have had it, who have locked themselves in a room because they don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
They're just paranoid about dealing with people. We're talking years after the concussion's over. So,
well, absolutely.
you know, the brain, and I'm not a neurologist by any stretch of the imagination, but, you know, there's a publication where the brain, you know, it grows until you're 20. You know, and it keeps growing. And these kids are getting, in the high school or the junior league, are getting concussions at 16, 17, 18. What are we doing, you know, myself as commissioner, yourself as a trustee, to help reduce the risk? Because I'm not worried about today or tomorrow or next week or next year. What about 5 years down the road?
Yeah.
That's what you gotta worry about.
And all of the literature, all of the research is indicating that the part of the brain that gets injured in a concussion, it could be 10, 20 years before the symptoms emerge.
Wow. Yeah, it's like when you break an arm, you know, you can see a bone, you break a finger, you see, you know, concussion, you can't, you know, do the zipper and look inside and say, oh, geez, you just can't.
So from a practical point of view, how is this going to play out on the bench during a game?
Well, tonight, we're doing a conference call with all the league, all the teams in the league. Dr. Sonata's going to be on the call, and he'll explain how that's going to work. And basically, even before this came up, the trainer is the first one who's on the ice with an injured player or a questionable player on the bench. And now, what this is, you know, if there's any doubt whatsoever, there's certain symptoms, programs to follow, questions to ask, you just remove them right away. And actually, when they come off the ice, they're going to be removed right away anyways. So once they're removed, then, you know, the team doctor will be involved and consultation with Dr. Zanata, and, you know, there's physical signs on the bench, whether loss of, you know, if the guy's been unconscious or if he's off balance. When you see guys get hit, they come off the ice, they're wobbly, right away they're going to be gone to to the room.
Those are the easy ones, right?
Wow, the obvious ones. It's the ones that you don't really know. And the onus too here, the responsibility is, if you do get hit, you can't say, you know, I'm a macho guy, I'm gonna stick it out. We, as adults, I guess, to begin with, or myself as commissioner, I think I have a responsibility to educate the players of the league as much as I can on this. And not only the players, but I gotta educate the trainers and the coaches and the general managers and the owners. Because I don't think any one of us within that group want to see a player hurt. And we want to take all the necessary precautions and medical stuff that that's available to us to help the student athlete.
Do you have a zero tolerance policy in the NOJHL right now for a person who gets a hit injury?
Oh yeah, no, it'd be zero for sure.
It's
Yeah, no,
part of the game.
Well, yeah, it's without anybody that questions that, it just shouldn't be in the game.
Would that be a situation where the judgment call is made by the trainer or by the player?
I from talking to some of the trainers already that I've spoken with, and one of them's in Germany, and he's got a medical background, and some of the things Matt was telling me that, you know, I'm gonna, you know, I'll be sending out bulletins. I'm on this. I send out bulletins to the teams, bulletins and mandates from the league, and one of the mandates coming from myself to the league is, you know, the trainer makes a call in conjunction with the doctor. If the doctor's on the bench, but the trainer is the first medical person on the ice.
The trainer can overrule the coach on this?
Absolutely.
Because that's, I mean, you can see in the heat of the game, there's going to be some games that are lost possibly because the person is taken out of the game. But we've got to err on the side of safety, not on the side of winning a game.
I wouldn't want to, I don't think any coach in the league is going to want to come before me if there's a question of a player's safety and the coach put him on the ice.
Yeah.
Because it will not be a pleasant situation for the coach.
And you know what, the interesting thing is in the past, you almost had to go by what the player was saying.
Well, I still think you do to a certain point, because most kids don't want to leave the game, no matter what game it is. You know, but I think there's some doubt now that maybe I should. But the trainer, the coaches, you know, on the sidelines, if you're in a football game, you know, they're adults, they're volunteers. Surely to God, you know, I know some guys that are coaching football, I can tell you right now without question, if there's a kid that just tiptoes the wrong way, he's gone. And I think all of us, coaches, trainers, have that responsibility to make sure that if there's any doubt, just remove. Even the questionable, because you don't have to get really smoked.
No.
You know, well, you know, we talked about the Crosby hit. It wasn't the first one, the worst one. It was the second
It
one.
was the second one. And you know, the interesting thing here is that, can you imagine being a coach who put a player back on, or even a trainer who listened to what a player said and put him back on the ice? And even if nothing happened, and then did a post-test, just to check, and find out there was a significant difference. And you dodged a bullet by putting him up because there was no visible symptoms. Like, that would be...
Well, did you read the
That would be
report,
devastating.
and didn't mention the leagues where they had doctors at both games, every game, and they did a study of a junior team. And what was the person, it was some crazy number, of 50-some players, like 19 of them had concussions.
Yeah, it was about 40%.
It was like, holy jumping.
Yeah.
And there's even, you know, they say, you know, what, 42% of youth coaches surveyed mistakenly believed that a concussion only occurs when an athlete loses consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's an educational thing again.
Yeah. It's Sidney Crosby has really brought this to light.
Well,
His
yeah,
injury-
yeah, he's hockey in the world, for, you know, when we say the world, not Canada. But yeah, he is it. And, it's unfortunate. You know, he's 24. hopefully, you know, he's getting the best, which I know he's probably getting the best medical advice in the world, and,
I think what's interesting is he's heeding that advice. He's listening to that advice. He's not pushing himself. to
that's
go
probably
back.
because his mother and his father have talked to him. That's something like, listen, the guy doesn't need the money, right? He loves the game. You could see with the way he plays the game, the passion, the desire, the love of the game is there. But he wants to play the game again. And you know what? Even if it means he misses a year, which I hope he doesn't, or 2 years. He's only 24 years old.
That's right.
You know, Sidney Crosby can miss 2 or 3 years. He's still gonna be the best hockey player in the world when he comes back.
But
So-
he's probably becoming an expert on this whole issue too, and if he's reading the same kind of stuff that we're reading,
I'm sure he has to.
he's gotta be doing some pretty serious thinking.
Well, you know what, the interesting thing is what the good doctor tells you what to do if you do have it. Like, you know, when people are sick or not feeling they got a headache, they're at home lying on TV, lying with the coach watching TV,
Right.
or playing a video game. That's the worst thing you can
The
do.
worst thing, you
Yeah.
know, adding stress to your.
You know, take a couple Tylenol, you know, have coffee, sit on the couch, hey, got a headache.
Yeah.
Turn on the TV or play Nintendo or something crazy.
Even the implications of a student athlete going to school the next day.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to be gradually getting back
Yeah.
into school and not on the stressful subjects. So as you're reading all of this and you're taking a look at it, and I remember Dr. Zanata telling me over the phone that while the test isn't a perfect science, that in some cases the test may show that everything's normal. But the doctor will discover a fraction on the skull, like a fracture.
Yeah.
And if the skull's fractured or there's some internal bleeding, but the student athlete's able to perform well on the test, both have to be satisfactory
Yeah.
before the person goes back to the
Absolutely,
game.
totally.
Yeah. And that's where he's saying, many doctors will do the physical exam and they'll report back, no, everything's fine, he doesn't have any symptoms, he's not complaining about any symptoms. Based on my examination, everything's fine. If that baseline test, if that post-test is not back to the baseline, now it gives you a second, standard of care, a higher standard of care to say, yes, physically you're fine, but there's something going on, and until we get that baseline back, you're out of the game.
And really, what player or what player would want to take a chance?
I can really see that even on teams where they don't have the testing, that you're gonna find an awful lot of parents who become more educated on this process, having their own children take the test, even if the team isn't taking the test.
Yeah, I agree.
And then if there's an injury, they will have their own child take the post-test, because you can do it right at home.
Yeah.
And they will satisfy themselves that things are okay or things are not okay, before they give permission to go back on the ice.
Well, that's the other thing too.